What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Dag Life Podcast here at the Dean Aguilar Group in San Diego. With your host, as always, Louis Pisano, with a good friend of mine, Charlie Zepeda. What's up, brother?
What's going on, Lou?
Welcome in.
Thank you, sir.
Happy to have you, buddy.
I appreciate it.
I'm stoked. I know we've been trying to put this together for a little bit. I know we had one on the books and some shit went down, which we won't talk about, but it's all good. Super stoked to have you on and chat and learn a little bit more about Charlie. So, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about Charlie Zepeda and how you got into real estate, and just a little bit about life.
Yeah, I've been licensed for the past 2 years. Before that, I was an ISA for another team for an entire year. But really before that, I was working in hospitality. I've always had an interest in real estate, but I've never actually taken the leap to, follow through and get that license and get myself to this point where I am today. But it's taken me a minute, and I'm super stoked to be here.
Pumped to have you here, man. We're stoked to have you on the team. In terms of like it taking a little bit to kind of getting you to get your license, what was the one thing where you're like, okay, now it's time?
COVID was really what it took for me to actually pull the trigger and get my license. That's what I used as my transition point. Working in hospitality, I had worked for an amazing company, and unfortunately some things had happened, 5 months before COVID. So I used that time to kind of figure out what I was going to do, and then COVID happened, and I knew already what I wanted to do. So I took that time to just knuckle down and study and
all the things, all the fun things, right? And obviously during COVID, right? We see so many people, myself included. I got into it during COVID too. I used that as my out to get out of hospitality. So what was that transition like for you from coming from hospitality to real estate? And what I often tell people is that the transition should be seamless and easy for most people in hospitality, because real estate is a relationship people business. Absolutely. Sales is a component. It's not a sales, it is a sales industry, but you can't look at real estate as I'm a salesman. If you do, then you're going to fail, right? A lot of people are very sales heavy, commission breath. You can smell that shit from a mile away. But it is very often easy for people like ourselves coming from hospitality to real estate because of what our previous careers like. So what was the transition like for you?
To be honest, the first year was extremely hard. I went from having a nice little paycheck to having zero income coming in at all. I had a little bit of money coming in from the VA, but that wasn't enough to keep me afloat. So really, I had to scale back my entire life, completely.
Like a lot of people.
Like I was not even joking. I was poor. So
I mean, we've all been there, right? And especially during like what the world is going through. Fucking can't believe it's already been almost 5 years, right? February will be 5 years.
Really?
Gosh, February, March 2020, right? That's kind of when shit went down. So in terms of like that scope, like what was life like for you?
Literally, I complete all of my friends and my family out of my life. I didn't party. I didn't hang out. I didn't do nothing. I just knuckled down and I studied like constantly. Like I created a schedule for myself. I would go to the gym first thing in the morning, and immediately after that, I was like going over all of my notebooks and then studying all of the flashcards that I would create. And
it was a matter of just making it work.
Yeah, no, I had to. I couldn't have those, distractions outside of real estate to get myself to this point. So I hung out with my friends maybe once a month to get myself here.
Yeah, I mean, you got to sacrifice the things you want now for what you want most, right? And obviously, a couple of years later, it's obviously been paying fruition in terms of like where you're at, right? So, talk to me a little bit about, what was it originally that made you want to get into real estate to begin with? Like we've talked about it, like years ago, so on and so forth. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I've always had an interest in real estate as well as architecture. When I was in high school, I took 4 years of architectural design. I had intentions on becoming an architect. I had a internship with DPR Construction that I had full intentions on utilizing when I graduated high school.
Right.
But my senior year of high school, things really shifted for myself. And I started viewing life in a completely different aspect where I felt that I needed to do something greater with my life. And I did one semester of college and knew that that was not going to be for me. So I took that as my lesson, as I needed to join the military, and I followed, my family members' footsteps, and I joined the Marine Corps.
And thanks for your previous, past, current service, right? And appreciate that. Obviously working in real estate, we have a lot of veteran clients. Hate hearing thank you for your service. We get it, but it's still common courtesy as a citizen. And it's pretty powerful and empowering of talking about purpose, right? Essentially what you saw was when you had to make that shift. And this was during a time where a lot of people saw like, hey, I need to be a bigger part of this process. and a
Yeah.
bigger part of this journey.
Yeah.
Walk me through what that was like and when it was taking place. Because I know we've
Uh,
talked about when, but
yeah, no. So it was definitely 9/11 that took place here. The attack on our own country that really made my mind shift in that different direction. Um, it was scary. It took me a little bit of time to actually pull the trigger and do it.
right.
But everything happens for a reason, and timing is everything. And I had happened to just be at home one weekend while my parents were gone. And that Friday night, a recruiter called my parents' house looking for me, and I just happened to be home, and I answered the landline.
Stars align. The
The
landline.
landline.
The fucking cord on the phone and
Yep.
shit.
So I answered the phone, and I had scheduled a meeting for that following Monday for them to come to my parents' house and chit chat. And I didn't tell my
I
parents
was gonna
until the night
say,
before.
how'd they take it?
My mom was definitely very like hesitant. She wasn't really for sure about it. I'm her firstborn. I'm her baby. My dad, he had been telling me my entire life that you're going to join the military when you get out of high school, and I was always like, "No, man, I'm getting an education." But it happened, and I ended up joining.
Wow, man, it's irony, right? I don't believe in coincidences. Obviously, everything does happen for a reason. In terms of like the recruit, because it's very strange. The recruiter calling your house looking for you.
Yeah,
How did that come about?
I have no idea.
Like you didn't put your name in a hat. You didn't
Nothing.
sign it. Like not like a
Nothing.
school fair or anything.
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, they came to our school
Right,
like
of
throughout our
course.
senior year.
Yeah.
We all did the ASVAB test and things like that, which would like rate where we would land as far as like our knowledge base and
Right.
things like that. But that was it, and that
Okay.
was a whole probably a year after this call took
Interesting.
place. Yeah.
Stars align, man. Fate.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta take the signs. You gotta run with them, right?
For sure.
While we're on the topic of high school, I want to hear about high school Charlie. What was life like back in Northern California?
Life for me in Northern California. So I am a small town country
Yep.
boy.
I know it's different than San Diego.
It's completely different. Yeah,
Cool.
night and day difference. So I grew up in a small farming town. I was in 4-H, which is where I started uh, purchasing pigs. We would buy piglets, and then yeah, I would
piglets?
raise them,
Okay.
and then I would take them to the county fair, and I would show them where we would later then auction them off.
So instead of a show horse, it's a show pig.
It was exactly a show
Holy
pig.
shit!
Yeah.
I'm blown away.
Yeah, so I did that my entire youth. And then high school, I joined FFA, which is Future Farmers of America. There, I held a position as our class treasurer. And during that time, I had kind of like transitioned my business, I guess you could say, from purchasing pigs and just showing them at the county fair, where I actually started like breeding them and selling them to the kids in my community.
Pig breeder. You should put that in your Instagram bio.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Former pig breeder.
Yeah,
That'll definitely raise a couple of question marks.
yeah,
That is insane, dude.
yeah,
That's wild.
yeah. So I did artificial insemination for my senior year of high school, and I bred 4 different sows, and then I would sell those piglets to all the kids in the
Okay.
entire state of California.
Wild. Blowing my mind right now.
Yeah,
4 different styles.
Yeah.
There's styles of pigs?
absolutely.
Like elaborate.
We
Not
have-
a pig knowledge guy over
Yeah,
here.
no,
I love
like,
baking,
They're
but that's
different
about it.
breeds.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Like the red pigs are Durocs. The white ones with the big floppy ears, those are Yorkshires.
Okay.
You got blue butts, but every pig.
That's what, dude. This is awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This is great to talk about, right? Learning
Yeah.
something new that you've never known before.
But that's where I learned how to
Yeah.
start running a business
Right.
for myself.
It's great because you got to learn like the intricacies of like sales, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's business 101, right? Supply and demand.
Yeah.
So pigs and piglets were a big sales-based business where you're from.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And what part of California again?
Northern California, so like the Chico area, Colusa
Okay,
County.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So you went from pig breeder or pig salesman to a pig breeder to a future farmer to
Mhm.
the military
Yep.
to hospitality in San Diego, one of the largest metropolitan cities in the country,
Yeah.
to now a realtor in one of the most expensive cities in the
Mhm.
country.
Yep.
What a journey, man.
No, it's been
What a
wild.
story to tell. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So what is it? What has life been like in terms of like, since you got the ball rolling in real estate? Like talking a little bit about, some of the lessons that you've learned or some of the experiences that you've had so far in real
Oh
estate.
man, there's a lesson with every transaction. I'm learning something new every single time.
Right.
I think the hardest thing for me so far is the different personality types of every client. I thought I had it in the bag when I was managing restaurants and I was like managing, 135 personalities. That was easy. Managing or not managing, but like working with clients that
Right.
have different personalities is completely different.
For sure.
So just navigating that in itself has been a challenge, but also, I mean, I'm learning something new from it every single time.
Yeah, and it's always going to be the case, right? Obviously, when it comes to like learning personalities and knowing personalities, it's even if like one driver is not the same as the next driver, one expressive person is not the same as the next expressive, right? So being able to be amiable and adjustable and adapt when it comes to different clients and different personalities
Yep.
is huge, and that's where I think the hospitality component comes in because you know how to adapt, right?
For sure.
Fast-paced environment to a
Yep.
slow night to a fast-paced transaction for 10 days to a 30-day escrow, right? There are some similarities in terms of how you handle those processes.
Totally.
In terms of like, the most challenging part of getting into real estate, besides the lack of paycheck the first year, what is the most challenging part been so far?
The most challenging part, God. I mean, even being an ISA or having that ISA experience, I think the hardest part for me is like continuously making sure that I'm always following up.
Right.
I mean, I do follow up, but I know I need to be a lot more persistent. That for me has been a challenge in itself because I've been fortunate enough where I have, a decent sized pipeline. And there are those times where I do have clients that kind of fall to the wayside and I do forget about them at times. That for me has been hard, but I know I just need to get better with my
Right.
systems and my follow up in general to overcome that.
Of course, and it's one of the things that we see with a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Called low hanging fruit, right? Everyone wants the low hanging fruit, the hot and ready buyer or seller that's ready to go right now.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's not going to be the case, especially in different markets, right? San Diego's a little bit different, but in terms of like the nature of the market that we're in right now, right?
Yeah.
Things are a little bit different compared to how they were during COVID. So you might have those people that take 6-8 months, maybe even a year, right? I've had people that have taken 2 years. I'm working with a client right now that I've met 2.5 years ago, right? So definitely different processes for every different client, which is definitely part of that growth component in terms of running a business. Because real estate, you're not a transactional person; you're running your own business, right?
Yeah.
So it's a matter of how to handle those intricacies of the business flow and managing from there. Obviously, getting into real estate, you didn't start with DAG, right? So
I did not.
Coming into DAG, you've been here for 2 years, almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
Almost like exactly, right?
Yeah, in November.
2 fucking years, baby.
Yeah.
So I get super prideful when it comes to the retention of the people that stay and how long people are on the team, right? Obviously, being the gatekeeper and being the director of growth and kind of having these conversations with people. The prideful thing for me is, the people that are still on the team for 2, 3, 4, 5 years at a time, which we have plenty. So super excited to hear. In terms of getting to DAG and meeting the crew, the fucking nutcases that we all are, the DAG life special, we like to call it. What was it about meeting the team and getting a hone for like where you would be at that made you feel like you were home and you wanted to stay?
Wow. So I mean, in hospitality, I was fortunate enough to work for some amazing teams, and during those times, I always felt welcomed. I always felt like I was at home.
Right.
So when I left hospitality, I was always looking for that place that made me feel the exact same way. The previous brokerage that I was at before was definitely not that. It was actually the complete opposite. And I knew that I needed to get out of there. And luckily, things happen and things fall in place as they should. But one of my connections from that previous brokerage got me in contact with you guys, thankfully. And I've been here ever since.
The rest is history.
And the rest is, yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt at home almost immediately. I'm very guarded in many ways.
Of course,
and even with Dean, always telling us how much he loves and appreciates us, it took me a while to actually like accept it.
Right.
And I think
because you hear all the time like we're about culture, from everywhere and everyone.
Yeah.
Right. But you do have to have that guard up and that reserve because you need to. It's like gaining and earning someone's trust.
For sure.
Right. It's feeling like hearing it's one thing, but feeling it is another.
Yeah.
And it does take some time to get there because again, there's a lot of people that overpromise, underdeliver,
Yep.
and especially with real estate, right? Team
Mhm.
promise you the world off the
Yeah.
break. So I get it, right? You know, for me, I always say that I'm biased because DAG is all I know.
Mhm.
I've been with DAG since I got into real estate back in January 2021. So like for me, I don't need to leave. I've
Yeah.
never had an inkling where I'm like, oh shit, should I explore a different opportunity?
Yeah.
Money, like regardless of what that looks like,
Mhm.
I know my people.
For sure.
And Dean, Afro, the crew are my people.
Absolutely.
So there's no reason for me to look elsewhere,
Yeah.
regardless of what a paycheck will look like.
Mhm.
So love hearing that.
Yeah.
In terms of like, the last couple of years, what are some things you've been like most excited about?
God, most excited about. I would probably just say my future and where I'm leading. To I know what I want to do. I know it's all just timing and a process to get myself there.
Right. So let's talk about that. What is it that you ultimately want to come from real estate?
I would really like to just continue helping as many people as I can get into a home. But what I really want to do as well is design and flip.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's my end goal. I'm just taking my time to get there. I'm not in a rush to get there, but
Right.
I'm definitely anxious and looking forward to it.
Love
So
that. It's exciting, man. Taking kind of coming full circle, right?
yeah,
Taking what you were focusing on in high school before
yeah,
life shifted and changed and bringing it
Mhm.
back to tie it into your new industry that you're part of.
yeah,
So that's super exciting. Looking back and kind of looking ahead, right? So, well, actually, we're going to look back now, right?
hmm
You're sitting down right in front of an 18-year-old senior in high school, Charlie, before he committed to the
oh
military.
gosh,
You're part of Future Farmers of America. You just got done selling some piglets, breeding a couple others.
yeah.
What's some advice you're giving him right now?
Oh man. Some advice that I would probably give him is just continue to stay true to who he is
Hmm.
as a human. Um, he's going to go through a lot in his life.
A lot of life changes.
A lot of life changes for sure. He's going to learn a lot about himself. But I think just staying true to who he is and to his core um, is the one advice that I would definitely give him.
I love that. It's important. I think so often we get lost kind of in like lost in the sauce, right?
For
We get
sure.
caught up in the trap of thinking, I wish with regret, right?
Hmm.
I talk a lot about regret and looking back on my life, same thing, right? It's always about just keep going the direction you're going, right?
Yeah.
You're eventually going to get to where you want to be. You're going to have a couple bumps and bruises along the way, but
Hmm.
you're ultimately going to get there,
Yeah.
right? So keeping in mind kind of the focus and the goal of where you want to be and who you want to be. You can't let go of that and you can't lose sight of that.
Yeah.
And I think so many people so often try to be someone they're not or be something different or try to keep up with the Joneses
Hmm.
just to impress people they don't even give a fuck about.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's kind of in a culture where we're at with
Hmm.
life, and you see it all the time. But at the end of the day, you've been as true of a person as I've come across, especially here in San
Thank
Diego.
you.
So I appreciate that from you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, man. In terms of DAG, right? Because obviously talking about DAG life,
Hmm.
one of the most important things we talk about, not only about like culture of the team and the integrity of the team, but it's also legacy, right? It's something that got empowered to us very heavily by Dean and Aphrodite. They talk about their legacy all the time, and we try to always talk with the crew about like what do you want to be remembered for, right?
Yeah.
So looking further down the road, once you get into more architectural design and flipping and so on and so forth, and when it's all said and done, hopefully more is done than actually said.
Yeah.
What do you want to be remembered for?
Oh man. Um, I would want to be remembered by just, oh gosh, someone who, like I was saying earlier, always stayed true to who himself, even at his peak of his career,
Hmm.
hopefully making a decent chunk of change, still stayed true and humble to himself.
Yeah,
But I want to be remembered as someone who always gave back to his community, because that is something that is really, really important to myself.
yeah,
I have a lot of goals that I want to do, and I'm going to make sure that happens so that I can actually help all of those in my community,
for
because
sure.
that's who we surround
I love
ourselves
that.
by, and that's what I want to do.
Man that gives back and is true to himself.
Yep.
Couldn't have put it better myself, my man. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me. Ready to
Yeah.
have you back again next time.
Yeah. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you guys for checking out another episode of the Dag Life Podcast. See you next time.